Good evening. Welcome to the BS and Beer Show. BS stands for Building Science for anybody who's new here. Topic tonight is going to be working with family. So we have the absolute pleasure, from my perspective as an architect, for having two architects on here talking about their working relationships. I'm Emily Mottram, architect in Portland, Maine, drinking coconut and pineapple bubbly tonight. So BS and beverage over here. BS and Beer is an independent grassroots movement to show building science knowledge through our local meetup groups and this, our Zoom show. The Brew Crew and our guests volunteer our time to bring what we hope is a fun and informative discussion every month. We encourage you to find a local BS and Beer discussion group or start your own if there's not one that is in your area. Visit our bsandbeershow.com for more information about local groups, and we're going to be rolling out a new website soon, so check in there to see. I think there's like 36 or 38 groups now, so find one in your local area. And we just want to thank IMW Group and Motif for helping us to make this happen every week. So, Mike, I think you're on announcements.
Thanks, Emily. I am Mike Maines. I design high-performance homes and renovations in Maine. Tonight, I am drinking a gigantic Dad Pants IPA, a local brew from Kushner Brewing. Announcements on Tuesday, June 10th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Join Emily and IAQ expert Nikki Kruger for a powerful, practical webinar on how to talk with your clients about indoor air quality from the very first design meeting. This webinar will be offered live and count for HSW credits for architects, always in demand, but it will also be available as a replay, so sign up even if you can't make it live. We will post a link to that in the chat box. If you're in Maine or want an excuse to travel here on June 27th, GoLogic, another local high performance company, and Passive House Maine are putting on a one-day conference called Scale Up, Carbon Down. Presentation topics will include offsite construction, reducing our building's carbon footprints through better materials and techniques. More details are coming soon, but you can register now. We will put a link to that in the chat. And our next show will be a week later than usual on July 10th, so the second Thursday, with Coda Ueno of Building Science Corp. He will join us to talk about tools of the trade for building diagnostics. So that will be a geeky one for sure, so tune in for that. And I will turn it over to Ben for introductions.
Before introductions, I'll sneak peek a little teaser about that Scale Up, Carbon Down. It'll have Chris Magwood, Jacob Ercuson, Julie Klump talking about multifamily practices, and then myself trying to say something useful. So with that, this evening I am drinking iced tea out of my water bottle because if I have a beer, I'll probably fall asleep. So I have the great pleasure this evening of introducing a man who I've grown to consider a friend. Steve and I have been all over the country together, all over the world together, and I've grown to appreciate Steve for always having a perspective that I don't consider, and always a good one. So Steve Baczek is a nationally recognized architect known for his deep integration of architecture and building science. With decades of experience in high-performance residential design, Steve's work regularly appears in leading publications like Fine Homebuilding and the Journal of Light Construction. Beyond his design practices, he contributes extensively to the industry as a speaker, writer, illustrator, and educator, often lending his expertise through webinars, national conferences, and hands-on house tours. How's that, Steve?
Sounds okay.
Sounds okay. All right. And then I get to introduce Lexi Baczek, who I have known over the years from Steve. Do you prefer Lexi or Alexandra?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay. Alexandra attended Roger Williams University and has worked with her dad for 7 years. She's been publishing excellent high-performance details and descriptions at Green Building Advisor since 2021. We're hoping she will tell us a little bit about herself, other than the fact that she has one of the cutest little babies in the game at the moment.
She is one of the cutest 5 months old I've ever seen. But I work for Steve. We do a bunch of custom residential houses, and we have a lot of fun working in our family business. That's really all there is to it.
So when did you know that you wanted to be an architect, and why did you choose to work with this guy?
Well, that is a fully loaded question. I actually came up to him, I think, like just a little bit into my senior year when I told him, oh, by the way, I'm just applying for architecture school. I definitely caught him off guard. He didn't see it coming. He was very excited about it, but it was a decision based on I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. My dad had a business, and I figured, you know what? He makes it look so fun. It would be stupid of me not to try it and see if this isn't something I could appreciate too and work with him. And then I started it and absolutely loved it. And that's how I got into it. But I definitely grew up in the field. So I knew it was something that always interested me to a certain level. I grew up going to job sites with him, and I used to sit on his lap when we were 6, and he would start by saying, what shape do you want to start to draw your dream house? And I would say circle, and he would try and convince me into the rectangle. Really, or we're going to go back to the castle again. And it was always the castle, but that's where it started for sure.
That was on SketchUp when it was owned by the guys in Littleton, Colorado, that started
Yep.
it.
Yep.
I remember that. I got it.
Sorry, you had me and Steve-O's absolutely fooled. He set up a computer upstairs and he put on AutoCAD and he put on SketchUp, and we thought it was like a gaming system to play. Yeah, that's absolutely tricked.
You were kind of hedging your bets there, Steve.
He's like, one of them's gonna like this.
One of them will. Well, hopefully it's Lexi. No. Steve-O's is a trip too. So we do have a lot of fun. I mean, it is the best experience to have my kids working with me, for sure.
Is Steve-O's we're working with you still?
Oh yeah. The three of us. We sit in this 12 by 12 office, all three of us, and it is nothing but a verbal war all day.
We're all in a confined space together, and it's who's going to make the first joke.
You know, Steve also have a question, and he'll turn around and he'll be like, do I ask Alex or do I ask Dad? If I ask Alex, she's going to call me an idiot. If I ask Dad, he's going to say, why didn't you ask Alex first? So he can't win. So
There is no win.
there's a no-win situation for Steve-O's, unfortunately.
Do you find that training Steve-O's is easier or harder than it was when Alex joined you?
Well, I mean, you know, like she can attest to it. When Steve-O showed up, I said, he's your problem, not mine.
You got an intern right off the bat. Way to go.
Delegation.
You know.
No, honestly, him coming in has made it 10 times better, because not only do I get the information from my dad that I've now gained, but describing it to somebody else and teaching somebody else is a whole different level. So there's pieces of it that get put together, and I even have to go back to my dad sometimes to try. I know how to explain what we're doing probably 2 ways, whereas my dad could probably go about 10 different ways to help you understand until you understand. So there's definitely a lot of learning about teaching it that I get just from Steve-O's being on board with us, which is awesome.
Alexi, what do you think were some of the most critical things that you learned from Steve? Like, was there particular details that always stick out to you? And then Steve, I want to hear the same thing from you, what you learned from your mentors that really stuck out as, like, you know, those mind-blowing moments.
Well, if you want the one-liners, I can give you those. I mean, I got keep it simple, stupid, down and out. Like, you got all those one-liners that he loves. But no, he really drilled into us, like, the water management, the control, the air barriers. I mean, that was from day one. Even going into college, we would come back with a project and it was like, oh, well, how would you actually build this? How would you get air movement through this? And I was like, God, I'm like a sophomore in architecture school. What do you mean? I'm not sure. But no, when you come out of it, he really drilled into the full control principles. And obviously you want the maximum amount of control that you can get. And that is what he has honed in on time after time, for sure.
Go ahead and tell him about your buddy in college when I showed up and he asked me what I thought about his project.
I think I had more friends hiding when he walked in the door than I did coming to see him.
But one I brought to tears, Ben, unfortunately. Like,
Those are,
I
those are
walked
good
away from his
learning
desk
moments.
and
We
he was,
remember those ones.
yeah. I was like, you asked. So,
Famous last words.
yeah.
Steve, what were some as you were a young architect, what were some aha moments for you?
So a couple of things. One, one of my favorite lines to tell them is, did you actually look at that before you decided to ask me a question? Because, sometimes it's very convenient to just turn around because the answer is there and ask the question without trying to figure it out. And while I tell them, basically two things that mainly about our relationship is one, you have the benefit of having me with 34 years of experience or whatever here that I can answer your questions. But understand, when I started out, I didn't have that luxury. I had to figure it out for myself or ask a Joe or Peter, and I grew up in that world, but there was still like how to lay out drawings and how to do this and what are the line weights and how does this go to that. So we have a lot of discussions about, I think that the easiest thing for them, as well as probably one of the more important, is the process and how we create drawings, because I will say we're pretty darn quick at what we can do. And it's because for 30 years, every time I look at a framing plan, I look at it with the intent of, is there something that I could do faster? So that instead of taking 6 hours to do this floor framing plan complete or whatever, I can do it in 5 hours or 4 hours or 3.5 hours. And so they get the benefit of that. I will say, Lexi is a dream to have working with me, and Steve-O's for sure. You're never going to get her to say a bad word about me, and I greatly appreciate that. Even though when we're in the office, life is a little different, because like when I build a SketchUp model, I build it my way, which isn't their way. And so I have to listen to how much of an idiot I am because I'm building it my way and they can't click on it. Things aren't
Yeah, why is it
grooved.
on that layer, Dad? Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. There are no layers. There are no group
Oh,
vendors.
Oh,
None
oh,
of
I'm
it.
with you, Lexi. I'm with you guys already. Steve, you've lost this one.
Yeah.
There's literally no sorting in his models. Everything is its own line, its own surface, its own everything.
Well, the thing that they don't understand, like there's doing production stuff, and then there's, I try and tell them they want to go right into building the final model, and I was like, no, we have a design meeting this afternoon. We're going to look at that model. Its use is going to be worth about 10 minutes. We don't need to spend 8 hours on that model. We need to spend 40 minutes on that model to develop it for that half-hour conversation. So we do have a lot of pushback, of, hey, you're not doing this right, Dad. You need to do this. And me saying, no, you don't understand what value lies in building that model. So we have that kind of push and pull, which I think is really good, because it's very important that they understand that we're in the business to make money. And if a model takes us 8 hours to build and render, and we use it for 20 minutes in a design meeting, and then the homeowner says, no, we don't want that. Can we change it back to, the Dutch hip roof or this or that? And it's like, okay, we can modify it, but we spent all this time doing it your way. I will say, and that, like, I wouldn't even attempt to do a finished model anymore. Steve-O's and Lexi are so much faster, better, quicker at it. Like, I understand how to put the building together, certainly, but as far as like building the model and making it look right, that's them. I don't even get involved in that anymore. And there's a nice relief to say, hey, I'm going to Poland next week. I need this model done. I need this floor framing plan laid out. I need these electrical plans done and this and this and this done before I get back. And it's nice. While I'm away, that stuff gets done.
How long I was gonna say, how many years did it take you to realize that you shouldn't be doing all the things anymore? This was a fun conversation we had in Switzerland last week, where some of the new technology stuff is just much better done by someone other than.
It is. It's tough because I don't want to relinquish. First of all, me personally, I feel anytime I relinquish something, it makes me feel old. Like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. And it's like, yeah, because I'm the old guy and I don't have to do that anymore. Well,
Unless it's
I
an
don't want to
electrical
be that
plan,
guy.
right?
What's that?
That should go.
I said unless it's an electrical plan, right?
Well, the
I think
electrical
you gave
plans you can
those
do.
2
I
weeks
hate
after
those.
I started. You don't want any more.
Yeah, I don't. Since like she started, I haven't touched an electrical plan. I hate them. But I still like playing in SketchUp and doing stuff. I still love drawing. If I go like we just went on vacation, my wife and I, for a couple weeks, like I get withdrawals. I want to come back and I want to draw. I love what I do. And the fact that they're joining me made it kind of invigorized me, right? Because rather than sitting here and looking for a sunset, I'm waking up every morning because it's a new sunrise with them. And so it's a totally different perspective about what we're doing and why I'm doing it. It's very important now that and we have a bunch of things, few things we're not going to talk about. We're going to let the industry be surprised and a little in the future, but we're working on some stuff, but it's a really great feeling for me to understand that everything that I've done for 30 years is gonna move on and you know take on another thing. And I've already told like Lexi will come over with the baby and her husband, and I already told her husband, I said, I don't care what you do, but you know what Gracie's going to be doing in 18 years. She's going to architecture school somewhere.
Awesome.
So, um,
What
but
do you, so Steve, you've been at this for a while and we're talking about modeling and different ways to work. Like, obviously new tools have come along throughout your career, new softwares and stuff like that. Do you feel that overall this helps young architects work better? Or do you think there's traps to the technology, the softwares?
yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some traps there. We're very good about I am a stubborn old man when it comes to Lexi and Steve-O's asking questions. Like, go figure it out. You know the answer. If I know they know the answer to the question, I won't answer it. I won't give them that luxury. I'm like, you know the answer to that. Just go take a look at it. And we can discuss it. And then like in 3 minutes, like, oh, okay, I get it. This is going because of this and this and that. And one of the benefits that we have, and I think it's a huge benefit, is part of who I am is doing presentations. And because of that, I'm able to take details and give them to Stevos and Lexi, and they turn them into 3D renditions of that detail. So it's like Steve sits behind me and he's getting an education because he's actually building the building. He's building the detail in SketchUp. So he understands that the sill sealer is sitting under that. This is extending out 2 inches, and he's asking his questions. And the same with Lexi, like they're building that. And just recently we've gotten into, okay, when I draw sections, they're drawn to real space and real life, but they're not fully detailed. So Lexi's in the process of taking sections and stuff and cutting the details out of them and then bringing those up to the larger scale and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah, I think, Ben, to go back to your question about technology, I think that we've gained so much being able to show like the modeling, the renders, the 3D animation, and obviously all of them are so helpful to the clients. They're helpful to builders even too, to understand like this is what we were thinking too from the outside. So you guys can throw in your input and we can all have this great chat. But I think the only downfall that gets a little concerning is the more we add, the more work it is for just one project that we were doing now in, let's say, a little less time than the one previously. And I know some other firms that are operating that are smaller firms, but they're operating where these people are doing the models, these people are doing the renders. And so for us, obviously, we're cycling through the entire project. So it's not one person doesn't have one job, but it's kind of a game of how much technology can we add in before you have to start hiring people where it's like, you know what, your full-time job is just rendering, because the time that it takes to do all the framing plans and do all of the CD documents for all of these projects. I mean, we probably have about 40 of them going right now. And it's like, how many can you do before it starts to be too much? But we need all the tools because they're so helpful for our clients to see them.
Any thoughts about bringing in people from outside the family? Could they work with you?
So we have talked about that. And my answer to Lexi when she asked me, I said, one, I'm not a good babysitter. There's nobody we could hire that would last a week with me. I'd fire him. I know I would. It's not going to happen. I said, let's get you and Steve-O's organized and on board. And if you guys want to expand, and it's a decision because, I try and be extremely good. And sometimes I even self-correct myself, but I never consider Lexi and Steve-O's working for me. I consider them working with me. And the relationship or the leverage of decision making will grow with their time, right? Like they don't know, in my opinion, like Steve-O, he's been with us a year. He doesn't know enough to make some of the hard decisions, but he will, and I will allow him to have a voice. And we'll, even if I think, okay, that's probably not how I do it, but let's go down that road anyways, because he needs to gain confidence in some of his decision making. Lexi needs
especially if he's going to be managing other people, you need to have those lessons in order to go on. And transitions are tricky, man. Like, you're the founder of the company. There's a whole thing. I'm in a company that's going through leadership transitions. I have friends with companies. It's a thing. It's a process, and you can't just jump right into it because, like you said, they're not going to last with you. But like, kudos for arming Lexi and Steve-O's with the opportunity that they can.
Yeah, and if they want to add somebody, if we want to grow the company, I told them we'll hire each of you an apprentice or assistant or whatever. I will never talk to them because it would probably be you're fired if I talk to them. So I'm like, we can hire a couple people, you can manage them, we'll give you projects and you deal with them. I'll give you a bunch of work, you figure it out and solve it with them. I'm not good with people. I can't get to work, that I have a flat tire or I have this or no. I know I'm not good at that. I've been at it too long by myself that even there was a significant adjustment, and Lexi was extremely good in tolerating it. But understand, when you work by yourself for 20 years and do everything and you're set in your ways and you're an old grumpy guy that's more concerned about getting that drawings out the door than making anybody happy or teaching somebody how to do something, there's a lot of things that I constantly kind of reevaluate internally that I don't share with them, but just trying to understand, like, I have to teach her how to cut details. And yes, it is going to take us, 4 hours today. It's going to take us 3 hours next week. We're going to do it wrong. But you know what? In 3 weeks, I'll be able to give Lexi 5 building sections and say, hey, go cut these 18 details out of these and set them up so that we can create the detail sheets or whatever, that there's a value there and that they need to know that stuff. But they're very good in tolerating me, and they're very good. I will say, kudos to them. They're highly respectful in the fact that, yeah, Dad is, he started this and this is his baby. We can't just come in here like a bull in a china shop and just start telling him we should do this, we should do that. You do this wrong, or they're very good. So we have a very good relationship. The three.
That's tough to manage in a family business.
Yeah.
I worked with my family, and it's tough at times because you can get away with the most and you can get away with the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Steve is really good about understanding he's at the bottom of the ladder. Like, all shit rolls downhill and he's catching it.
And that's the way it should be, right?
And he's really good about it. But he gets to do some cool stuff. We went out last night. He came out to dinner with me. We met some very, very interesting people from a very large company, and he got to sit at the table with me. And they treated him with very much respect, and he gets to do some really cool stuff. And tomorrow we're all going to the AIA convention to walk around, that'll be a treat. Like, one of the happiest moments of me is just being able to do things like that. Walk around IBS with Lexi and Stevos, and go talk to people in booths and get them to meet people that I've known for 20 years. It's like, yeah, this is my daughter. She works with me. You're going to have to deal with her now because I'm going to disappear.
Yeah, Ben, just like you were saying, I know you get it. It's one of those, as long as you have thick skin, it's the best scenario for sure. But you need the thick skin because it's so open and free to say whatever you want. It's your sibling, it's your dad. There's no sugarcoating anything. But the best part that comes with that is there's no stupid question. I mean, when I worked in a commercial office. And sitting there when you had a question, it was like, all right, do I look this up for 4 hours and then call it quits and have to ask my question? Do I try and figure out this way? Like, there is no wasting time. It doesn't matter if it's a stupid question. It doesn't matter if it's a really hard question. I turn around, I ask it, we get to the bottom of it, and all of a sudden I've learned for the last 20 minutes all about this concept that I asked, and then I'm back to work. So it definitely feels like your education is just light years ahead when you're able to turn around and freely ask a question from 8:30 to 7 p.m.
Yeah. No, I think that is really important that they have that luxury that a lot of people they don't have, that they're walking into a door. Somebody was asking, like, how do we get our jobs and stuff? We're extremely fortunate. We probably get at least an inquiry a day for work, and we need to pick one, maybe two projects a month. So we have the luxury to push 20 projects aside a month. And so we could certainly expand if we wanted to. I'm just not a very good babysitter. And I don't know. I know there's some people that would want to grow this big machine. I love the fact that it's the three of us.
Which kinds of projects don't make the cut? Which ones do you prefer, and which ones get pushed aside?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. They have to be intriguing, and part of being with the build show and doing videos and education. We need to take on projects that we can kind of push the envelope, that clients and builders allow me to do. Like, we have this project in Mitchell. It's that first perfect wall that we're doing. And that's the homeowner, the builder, everybody kind of getting on board there. We had a project, I don't know, it was maybe about 8 months ago. We had a guy from New Jersey, like, hey, I want to do this, and I want you to design my house. And I was like, yeah, we're not interested, because it's like I could go and get the details from another project, and we could put a set of drawings together in less than a month for this house. And he's like, well, what if I pay you double? And I'm like, it's not really about the money. There's no value. We've done your house a dozen times. I have those details. I have those drawings. It's about just making money. And not to sound morbid, but I have a limited amount of projects, in front of me. I want to make sure that we're picking projects and clients that are exciting and can do something. Or, sometimes it's Lexi hates when I take on renovation projects. Or even little projects, like we had somebody inquire today from the town we live in, saying, hey, I want to put an addition on my house. And she's like, do I want me to just email them and tell them we're not taking on any jobs? I was like, no, let's find out a little bit more, because maybe this is a project where I say, you know what, Lexi, you just take it over. You do that. You go meet with them. You do that. When you're stuck, then call me and I'll come. And we just took another project on in Florida where told the people, I said, Lexi's probably going to be the person you're going to associate with more. And in most cases, that's really good, because if I were to confess, half of Lexi's day is jabbing me in the side to get something done. Did you send that email to that woman? Did you send this email to this guy? Did you call the structural engineer? Because we need that answer. And usually the answer is no, not yet, but I will. And so, but
Well, when?
yes, but it's really important, I think, that, you know, they need to start doing all of this stuff. And so some of these projects will take on that small little addition and go over there and we'll deal with it. It's like, and it's not, I don't want to make it sound like, hey, you have to earn your stripes to kind of be here. We can't just do all the fun, brand new custom homes. It's like we have to do some of the dirty work too, so that you understand where all this fun stuff is coming from and where it's based and all of that. And so,
There's nothing
And
quite
why
like,
it's fun.
yeah, I was gonna say there's nothing quite like learning at the job site too, and I'm sure that Lexi can't go to every job site with you too, and so especially with a little one at home. So, you
well,
know,
we have, my wife here, so she's on nanny duty all the time.
yeah.
So
But
she
having those
does
close
everything.
projects is nice because you go to
Yes.
the job site, you learn how to communicate with the builders, you talk to the, subcontractors who are there, and then you feel comfortable when you do get to go out of town. I don't know, because I think, and I don't know how you feel about it, Lexi, maybe it's different having your dad as your mentor, right? And he will just go to a job site and be who he is. But I know when I was young, going on to a job site, was more intimidating because you're like, I don't know, these people know more than I know, and so it's kind of nice to be able to walk around with him, I'm sure, and experience how he relates to the people on the job sites and say, oh yeah, this is cool. This is how I would do that.
Lexi's far kinder than I am.
Oh no, you're not like I had this one boss in South Carolina. He like showed up to one of my project sites and started ripping stuff off the walls, and you don't do that, do you?
No, I don't get that crazy, but you bring up an interesting point, because we went to IBS this year. Lexi just had a baby, so she wasn't there, but Steve went with me, and he was a little nervous about going. He's like, well, what if people, like, because I work with you, they're going to come up and ask me questions, and what if I don't have the answer? I said, just be honest. Tell them you don't know the answer. You don't know the answer. And I said, if anybody gives you shit, then tell me, and we'll go have a talk with them, right? So they're in I think, a really good place in that sense, that, just be honest. If you don't know, if I don't know the answer, I'll tell them, hey, I don't know, but you know what? I'm going to go call Peter Yost and I'll get back to you tomorrow, and I'll talk it over with Peter or Joe. And but just be honest. So it's a very interesting world that we all live in, and to bring them in, because it's not like Lexi said she worked for a commercial firm. One of my very good friends is a principal at a large firm in Boston, and Lexi worked there for a summer. And it's a totally different experience that I know she didn't like. She likes working in our office, because there you get put in a corner and you're told to do this, and you're probably going to do that for the next 3 months, and it's not going to change. It's like here, yeah, we might be doing a drawing for an article, we might be doing something for a presentation, we might be doing an electrical plan, or we might be designing a house and starting out with some initial plans. So every day is a little different, and it's and you guys all know that what we do, you go to IBS, it's like it's a different world. You're meeting manufacturers, there's people there, other builders, architects, designers that we're meeting up. We all have to, you know, catch up with Armando, when we're in Texas, and have to deal with him. I say that because I know he's in the crowd.
Looking
But
gray.
but it's almost like our industry, the residential part, it is somewhat family like. So, by having my kids, it's just kind of a sub family of the bigger family. But
You guys think with your focus around high performance, it changes the way you work compared to other firms?
I think we do things a little different. I mean, first of all, you know from just hanging out with me and traveling, I hate the idea of high performance. I think it's just
Oh,
we do houses with better decisions, right? Um, in some cases, some people might argue that what we choose to do is not what we should do, but I'm in the business, one of the things I love is, Monday morning quarterbacks telling me, "Oh, you should have done this. Oh, you should have done that." Well, we're in the business of, the rubber meets the road. And I have to decide today how we're going to put that wall together or how we're going to insulate that wall or how we're going to air seal that or install that window. And we might learn from it and we might do something different. But you know what? Today, this is how we're going to do it. And that's that. But so from a high performance, I'm trying to get into their minds also that don't think of it as this is some different category. It's just some elevated decisions that we're allowed to make. Because we still do. I mean, north of that Mitchell project, we're doing a 2x6 wall with, zip R9 on the outside, UPVC European windows for a retired Navy guy. 2,200 square foot. It's not some big spectacle. Is it a really nice house? Yes, it is a very nice house for him, right? But it's not going to make any award pedestal or anything like that. But in his eyes, that is the best damn house he's ever lived in and will live in. And so a lot of our projects, getting back to your question, Mike, of how do we choose? It depends. Like we do have a lot of like retiring military and stuff that watch the videos and they want to come, and I'm always willing to help out brothers and sisters in the military to do their projects and work with them. And it is funny because a lot of times we get people like, Steve, we only want to do like a 1,600 square foot house. I know, you probably don't do this stuff. No, we do it. You guys, Mike and Emily, you guys know it is much harder to design a 3-bedroom, 1,800 square foot house than it is a 3-bedroom, 2,800 square foot house. That's a challenge. And so a lot of times we're up for that. Let's take this. And Lexi, I'll have to deal with, why did you take this job, Dad? This is just a nightmare. Like, why are we doing this? You
Okay,
say you
Lexi.
challenges are fun.
Lexi, if you get to pick, what would you pick as the projects you get to do? I heard she doesn't love renovations.
I don't know. The part about renovations I don't like is I'm the one who starts the project, who has to go take the pictures, has to go measure it up and do all that aspect. So I don't have a problem doing renovation. It's more of I know who's getting sent out to go take like the 6 hours to go take all the measurements, and then who has to go back when they
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh.
Going back 2 weeks later when we're drawing this up and I say, what was the floor to floor height from the first to the second floor?
Yeah.
Oh, I still missed that one.
You got to call the client. Yeah. So
got to go in the stairway and measure floor to floor.
Yep.
Yeah, you never take enough pictures or enough measurements.
No, and you think you have the whole house, and it's that one
Oh.
spot that you didn't get a picture that all of a sudden you go back to look, and it's like, oh, we got to go back.
Yeah. You guys know, I'm the kind of guy that I'll push the mistake to the limit. And I'll be like, all right, so the two of you went out there, you shot 60 photos, but we don't have a picture of the eave in this corner. Why? Why can I not see that? Well, there was a tree, or, with Stevos, tell him about, not that I want to throw Stevos on their bus, but I will.
He's not here, so.
Yeah, he's not here, but Lexi was at a project where he was measuring up. Like the woman offered him lunch. Like Stevos was sitting down having grilled cheese and soup with the kids, and Lexi's there like, Stevos, we have to measure the house. We're not on a picnic here. But Stevos sees life through a different.
Yeah, Stevos right now is getting to go through the phase that I went through of the first year of figuring out all these things. We have this project that's a restoration project. We went out there. And of course, I told him, I was like, all right, take all the photos. I don't want this on me. I don't want it. This is not my fault when I missed the photo. So I sent him. He takes all the photos. We get back. And of course, there's one elevation that we just need to understand how this roof slides in under the other one. And nowhere to be seen. Absolutely nowhere. It's like perfectly at the angle that you're looking up at the roof where you can't see the top of how it comes in. And so he got roasted over that for like 30 minutes.
Just so you guys feel better, it's the same on the builder's side too. Those pre-installation photos we take to like make sure we don't lose any wires or boxes. It is always the one that you manage to not get, no matter how diligent you are, which is the one where you lost something.
Yeah. Or someone comes back and says, did we have an outlet in that corner? Or is there, is that where the conduit for the solar panels, does it go up that wall? And you look, like you have a picture of every other square inch in the room, except for that 2 feet of wall.
Like trying to zoom in from other angles.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Trying to make something work.
Yeah.
David Gerstel in the audience asks if you have a checklist you follow for on-site measurements. I don't. I should.
Yeah, I don't either. And the reason I don't, this is the problem, is like, because it was me by myself for so many years. I just went and I did my thing.
Yeah.
But now I'm sending Lexi out and Stevos out. Hey, you guys go measure this. I'm not going to go scan it or whatever. But we are, I mean, one of the things that I will give a ton of credit to Lexi about is Lexi is highly organized. If I said, hey, go into the office, guess which desk is mine and which is Lexi's, it would not be a problem. Mine looks like Goose.
I've seen both of your desks. I can attest to this.
It's like Goose laid across my desk and took a nap on all the papers. In defense, I know what every paper is. I can say, hey, go to that pile. About halfway through, you're going to find an email from this person. And it is there, but Lexi's highly organized. So the answer to that question is we are in the process of doing things and creating packages where when we sign on a client, Lexi did a beautiful package. It's a welcome package. It's like, hey, this is how we operate. This is what you can expect from us on projects. And so we are working towards that.
I find in general, the bigger your team grows, the more those systems become really important because you did it for 30 years and you had a system and you went out and you did it, which by the way, if you add a homeowner into the mix, it gets 10 times harder to do homeowners and do photos and measurements. But when you add the team, then you have to remember all the things you just know how to do, you now need to tell somebody else how to do that they then need to be able to repeat.
And you're going to forget. You're going to give them the checklist, then your head might be 10 things, but you're going to relay 9 of them to them. Or 8 of them. And so it's
it's been a big admin year. The minute Stevos joined on, it was one thing to figure out us two, but the minute that we added on just one more person, all of a sudden we needed these checklists, we're going to sort it like this instead. All of that stuff came into play for sure.
Yeah, as our company grows, like a good chunk of my life is like standard operating procedures, roles and responsibilities, expectations. Because like if I get asked the same question 3 times, like we should just write it down and put it somewhere that people can find.
And that's exactly it. It's like part of that welcome package. People over 30 years, I've gotten asked this one question by over half the clients. And I've never put it in writing. And Lexi's like, well, what are some of the things that people are always asking? And so we develop that so we can send that off to them. And now we don't have those questions anymore. Or our details, right? We've changed the way we've done window details, for example. And that was based in, we've always gotten the same question back. And it's like, all right, we'll just develop a detail now to combat that series of questions, so we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. I had my project coordinator today said, what are the 5 questions you usually tell the client to ask the contractor when they're gonna talk to the contractor? And I was like, gosh, I know I just sent this to another one of our clients. Like, did I write it down? And so thankfully I found it because it wasn't that long ago, and I copied it and I said, let's make this a template so you can just send it out when they're interviewing contractors. Like, here's the 5 or 6 questions you should definitely know the answer to when you're interviewing a contractor. For you guys doing better detailed work, how do you vet your contractors?
Um, we're tied in with a lot of manufacturers, so a lot of times I'll call over to Chris Cook at Huber or something and say, hey, who's the rep out in Boise, Idaho? And give me their number. And then I'll call them and be like, hey, do you know this builder? Or here's 3 builders we have. Do you know any of these? And it's like, okay, I know this, I know all 3. This guy I wouldn't want you to work with, but these other 2 are good, and this guy's probably the better of those 2. And we
We
can
do the same type of thing with trade partners here. We ask the local lumberyard, like, who's doing good work out there? Who's a good siding crew that you're seeing out there that's like thinking about their work? And we found some great ones that way.
Yeah, building inspectors too. I'll call a building department and ask to talk to the building inspector and just say, I'm an architect out of town. We're going to be looking to do a project here. Are there some builders that kind of come right off the top of your head that you think are very good in that area? So,
Do you also find that you have the opportunity to turn away lots of projects, right? Because you're very well known. Do you find that you also have a list of other people that you would recommend them to? I know they have to kind of go through a process before they get to me because I'd love to help everyone, but then, that's not always possible. And so then we usually try to have at least a couple of people that we would say, you know what, this person's probably a good fit for your project. Do you guys do that as well?
I mean, if I know some people in some areas, I'll be like, hey, give this guy a call.
Yeah,
And
we
I
get
mean,
a
even
fair share.
Armando, I think I've sent 1 or 2 people to Armando and just said, yeah, just you're probably better off going, with him, and he's local to your area. And do stuff like that. And there are some areas that, like the California fires, we probably got asked to do, I don't know, 5 or 6 projects out there that Lexi hated when I said no to every one of them. But it's just, to California, 1 meeting is a 3-hour or 3-day trip. I got to fly out there, have a meeting, and then fly home. It's 3 days. She didn't like it. I'm like, you're not the one that has to get on the plane and fly across the country and then, 48 hours later, fly back across the country. I said that wears on you. So we stay pretty much east of the Rockies. Because as far as Colorado is, Boston to Colorado, I can be there for an 11 o'clock meeting, with the time change and stuff. So
You're home late, but
yeah, but there's some places that are real easy to get. Some are like Jake's is actually, it's a pain in the neck to get down to see him. Because whether I fly into Kansas City or St. Louis, I'm looking at a 2-hour drive after I get the car, after I get off the plane. And, it's a pain in the neck, but no, we definitely do it. But there are some places that are much easier than others to get to. And we're fortunate. Boston, airport, we can get pretty much anywhere real easy.
outside of the travel difficulties, Steve, over the years, have you found particular areas of the country that are easier to work in or harder to work in from whatever angle?
Yes, nothing makes me happier like when somebody calls from Texas and says, "Yeah, we don't even have a building department down here." I was like, "Yes." No red tape, because we to kind of rephrase your question, we'll get a lot of inquiries locally, like to work in Cambridge or Somerville. And Lexi's like, why don't we take these jobs? And I was like, because Cambridge is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare to all the red tape and all of the, committees and stuff that have to review stuff. We could do a project in Texas or Oklahoma or, South Dakota where we're doing that one. There's some inspections, but they're not really inspections. And so I don't take them because we're trying to skirt, obviously, the code or anything, because we're always building above it. But we're doing it there just because it's easy and it's fun. I don't have to deal with all of the crap. We did the Riverside project in Concord, Mass here. It took us 26 months to get permission to file for a building permit. That's not even filing. That's to get permission to file for the building permit. It's like you just have to argue with these people. It's like, okay, I know you want a septic system in, but guess what? Conservation won't allow us to put it where you want us to put it. So can you please talk to them and figure out some way where we can put a septic system in where the Board of Health is happy, but it's in a location where the Conservation Commission is happy. You know, it's a pain in the neck sometimes, but sometimes we'll forego that because that was just an incredible site and project. And the client was extremely good. So
Miguel in the comments said my neck of the woods is hard to get to. Not hard for Steve though. He can get in his car and be here. But for you coming from Texas, I mean that's how we feel too. Like I gotta go to Boston to get to Colorado. You're talking about Colorado. Like I gotta go to Boston to get anywhere from here. And
yeah, you have it very tough. And it's like, you know, we've often talked about, hey, do we move out of here? And I was like, I need to be at an airport where I can get to the world in one airport.
yeah, that would be
From
really
here.
convenient. I went
Yeah.
to Siga in Switzerland. I took a hopper flight from Rockland to Boston, and we got on the flight. We flew from Boston to Frankfurt. Then we went from Frankfurt to Zurich. It's like,
And then
man,
had to
I've been
take the train
traveling
to
for
Lucerne.
yeah, right, right. Then the train to Lucerne, then the bus to yeah, it's an experience that everybody should have. It was fantastic. But from here it's challenging. So I appreciate that there are some places where you say like this is just a non-starter. So
Yeah. And it'll, you know, to again to answer your question, Mike, sometimes we take projects because I've just never been there. Right.
how many states are you licensed in?
I don't know, like 6 or 7. I'm working on getting a couple more. New York was absolutely horrible. Took me over
Awful.
years. Oh my
Awful.
God. It was
I
Maine.
I work in New York. It's an absolute nightmare.
The
I'm
I'm
education
realizing it because like
department
us too.
has
Oh my
oh,
God.
that was a nightmare. I second that one, Steve.
Yeah, I got my license in Maine. I think it was 3 days. I applied and like I had a letter 3 days later.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, why are every other place in New York? It was like every time I called them, it's like, oh, we need this now. It's like, why didn't you tell me that last time? And I could have put it all together. And I had to go back to Betsy and get confirmation on work. And New York was horrible,
Yeah.
absolutely horrible.
I agree. I think I'm registered in 6-ish states at the moment, and New York was definitely the worst.
For
Yeah.
Worst one.
builders, we have to get licensing by county in New York. So each county is a different license. So I can't just like have a New York contractor's license. I have to have a Dutchess County and a Putnam County, and each one is different. So you're preaching to the
Come
choir
back to
here.
Maine. You don't need a license to be a contractor here.
We used to have a town near us. You guys will appreciate this, where the local building and zoning law was that if it falls over, it can't hit the neighbor's property line. There you go.
That's a good one.
I'll take that back.
Yeah. So
Are you guys starting to leverage any of like BIM and kind of like integrated modeling and stuff like that? Do you think there's value there for the residential world?
this is a pretty explosive topic you're about to touch on here, Ben.
Oh, you just asked him about energy modeling.
So
Well,
go ahead, Lexi.
Steve and I
I'll
have
let
had
you
that
answer it.
conversation
I'll
before.
let
But
you blow it up.
tell us about energy modeling, Steve.
Well, yeah, energy modeling, I definitely don't believe in. Yeah, I don't quite understand that. And I've had a lot of conversations with people that I very highly respect, and it's like there's a few that want to push it, and it's like okay, but we could do that. And I haven't done it yet, but I talked with Randy Williams and I asked him, I said, would you be one of the participants? I want to get 10 different energy modelers and give them all the same set of drawings and then see what the results are.
Then we can hand it to the Woofy folks too, Steve, and we'll see
Yeah.
what comes out of that.
So it's but anyways, I mean we do, somebody was asking, we do off-grid projects without doing energy modeling and stuff. That we, and on some of this stuff, we're very fortunate. A lot of the projects we pick, we get to work with good builders, good subcontractors, good solar people. And so we're able to place a lot of trust in good people that are really good team members. We've certainly been privileged by who we've had the ability to work with and do projects with. So it's been a lot of fun in that regard. Guys saying, come to Wisconsin. We have a project in Green Bay. We're going to start the construction in probably about 8 weeks or so. But yeah, Lexi's a big, like, why don't we use Revit? Why don't we do this? And I was like, no, because I'm an old dog that does everything in 2D and AutoCAD. That's why.
Well,
And
Steve, plug your ears, and Lexi, I see the value in it because, like you were talking about the renderings before, we have a couple of architects that we work with that give us BIM models, and on complex houses, it allows us as the builder to understand interactions much faster, which allows us to ensure that they're getting done correctly. Because there are, like, it takes years to be able to visualize a 2D drawing in your head as a 3D object. And some people are better at it than others. So those things for us help to, explain those questions.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was going to say, I would say that your leadership team, Steve, you don't have to stop using AutoCAD and SketchUp because we definitely do that. Revit is much better as a construction document software. The more you know when you start building it, the better it works. And so it is really good when you do that transition between the two.
maybe one of these days, but
You
You could
don't have to
also
learn how to do it.
I don't know. The
you could
problem
also
is though,
duplicate mistakes for years without even knowing it.
once you start using those SketchUp and AutoCAD so much, like after years of just getting so tuned in on how exactly we do things, Revit is limiting, and it's software. Its software isn't as free as SketchUp is. So now it's kind of at the point where I understand what he's saying, where if I were to switch back to Revit, there's a lot of things that I would have to do very different. I mean, have you ever used Grasshopper? Like, it's like every program is a whole new world to open up. So yeah, I mean, we've been doing for SketchUp for so long. I could run not BIM, but I could run my own HVAC just with the follow me tool in the line. It would take 2 seconds. That, like, once you use SketchUp so well, you understand how to do all these other things very quickly through it. And it also comes down to, yes, I do believe in it, but there's also a certain level that it shows in 2D that's enough to a degree. I don't know. I guess
Correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding of like ArchiCAD and Revit is that they're more geared towards production drafting, really, right? Because you guys are lucky that you don't have to churn out tons of just repetitive documents, and that's where those things help. Am I off base there?
yeah, I feel that it's definitely exactly what you're saying too, and it's a lot more rigid, the forms that you're building. Again, like we do some pretty, like the different slants that we have going on with roofs, and we're starting to do some very interesting things like walls that aren't meeting the ceilings and all of those kind of things, that it starts to get a little funny in Revit just because you're building 3D as you're building 2D. So when you're drawing it in 2D, it's making the model, which we're making the elevation. So a lot of things are happening at once. But I also think that your projects start to become repetitive because it's the output, it's already halfway there, it's already halfway done. Whereas when you do all of these drawings by themselves in AutoCAD, there's so much room for, oh, let's change this, I can go back. And there's a lot of play with it. Like, again, it ends up being boxes and not as fun.
yeah. And Ben, to kind of talk about your point, if we're doing a very complex house, like we have one now in Texas that it's actually with Risinger build, very large house, and we have Positive Energy. They're doing the whole 3D layout and and work up for that. And so we just, they're figuring it out. So there's on those projects where we use somebody like them. So
I'm on a project right now where the architect draws in 2D and Positive Energy is doing all the mechanical design. So they're the ones having to do all of that mapping.
yeah. So
Miguel says they like Revit.
and you know the baseline for thinking for all of that is we should try and make the house as simple as possible so the mechanical system isn't complicated and its interaction with the framing system makes sense. Like I don't
Can you
want
say that louder for the people in the
well,
back?
I was just
Steve?
going to say, I mean, it's not, with Michael, Emily, Lexi, and you, we're used to having a little bit of logic to our plans and how we put it together. And we pride ourselves on, most of our projects, we do the floor framing plans, we do the roof framing plans, and we draw them, and then we get the structural engineer to review it, just mark it up, and then we'll edit the drawings per their comments. But the reason we do that is so that I can understand, okay, I need to get a duct from the crawl space vertically through the first floor and into this horizontal shaft in the floor trusses. And we'll create that and we'll make sure that it's coordinated with the floor trusses and that it aligns so that we don't have that problem. I know there are architects out there that just say, hey, here's our pretty house. You figure out where the ductwork goes now. And we usually figure it out. And, we're not going to be spot on, but the house we're doing a Risinger build, we have a number of places where I allotted for a 12 by 24-inch shaft for the return and the supply, like 3 different places to go through the building. And it worked out great. Everybody's happy. The people have positive energy. They're like, yeah, we can make it work inside those parameters. And
and for all the people starting out too, there's a different level of understanding you have to have when you are drawing every single line on everything in AutoCAD versus Revit. I think that there's a completely different understanding to what you're drawing and how it's getting built when you use AutoCAD.
yeah, I've never used it, but I'm assuming Revit, like you can show a little bit of an intent and then it'll give you some results. But the beauty of AutoCAD, I that's an extremely good point, is that, when you saw the presentation I did at summer camp last year, it's like an average set of drawings for us is somewhere between like 60 and 90,000 lines. And all those lines mean something. And it's like when you're forced to draw it and think about it at that level, then I think, you're forced to think and solve those problems. And a lot of architects, they turn it on to the structural engineer. The structural engineer, he's going to solve for structural. He's not going to solve for the ductwork and all of this unless I tell him. And the only way that I know is if I draw the floor framing plan and tell the structural engineer, we need a 2-foot by 3-foot shaft to go through the floor here.
I mean, I remember the stair tool in Revit. It's click, click here, figure out the stairs, and they run all the dimensions for you, how big the switchback is, and all of that stuff. And there's definitely a different understanding when I have to sit there and draw it all out. What's the code? All right, what should that actually be? Like, it's very different in AutoCAD. And again, just the understanding level that you get rather than clicking 3 buttons and it getting handed, like it giving you the information.
Well, we usually quit at 7 o'clock, and this has been a really fun discussion. I think we could keep talking. I think I recorded a podcast with Steve a couple years ago. We talked for like 2.5 hours. We could go all night. The chat box has been entertaining. It's been great having you guys on. It's great to see your dynamic and hear also how you're running your business in general, just adding new people, but then also the dynamic of adding your kids to the group and how that's different. So it's been really fun to have you guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thanks to the audience too.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for joining us. You guys didn't ask enough questions, so we asked Steve what we wanted to know.
Good night, all.
All right. See y'all.